and all that kind of stuff. Well, they didn't have machine guns, but you know what I'm saying. I'm trying to make this kind of cool, but anyways. The British claims the British colonies are able to solidify their hold on this part and also on most of Canada, whereas the French basically lose a big chunk of territory, all right? And so I guess in the end, the English get all of this, which they didn't have before, which was disputed. And that's very important because that's going to clear the way for future settlement and possibly even, more land and more states and stuff. The consequences of this treaty are pretty significant. First of all, the Native Americans in British lands aren't going to get anything out of it. In fact, they're not even written into the treaty. They're not even invited to, well, frankly, bless you, they're not even invited to Paris, because why would they be to sign this treaty? And they're certainly, their interests are not hurt. But the most significant consequences is that the British national debt doubles as a result of this war. Okay? Let me say that again, because it's huge. The British national debt doubles. They've got a tremendous revenue problem. Now, back in those days, debt for countries was a big problem, okay? Because you guys know what gives money its value, even today? Like, why is our dollar bill? I don't have any right now, but anyways, why are our paper dollars? How do they get value? What's that?
Is it off of like other currencies?
That's part of it, but there's also another big reason why we have dollar values. It has to do with a precious metal. It's gold. Is that what you were going to say? Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good, no problem.
I apologize.
Gold, back then, see, nowadays there's not enough gold to give the value of money its value. But back in the day, 1750, 1760, gold gives you the value. So if England doesn't have enough gold to basically cover the value of their money, they're going to go into debt. And that's exactly what happens. Like, they can't just print up British pounds, like print. If you print up money without having the gold to back it up, what's going to happen to the economy, do you think? You're going to have this thing called inflation, which means the prices of everything are going to rise and the value of the currency is going to decrease. So Great Britain has a tremendous problem, and it's not good. And so they've got to figure out how to get money. So, okay, you're the King of England, and you're thinking about this, and you're going, oh man, what can we do? How can we get out of debt? What shall we do? What are some options out there? Imagine you're the King of England.
Tax the colonies.
Tax them. Why would it be a logical choice to tax the colonists?
It would be the easiest thing to do.
Explain more.
Well, I look at it because they're there. Just like rent, if you're renting a house or if you're renting an apartment, raise the rent. You need more money, they gotta pay it anyway, they want somewhere to live. They don't want to get evicted, raise it.
You're totally right.
They got a growing economy.
They got a growing economy, so maybe they can afford it. And we're defending them, right? Like, we're the ones that fought this war with the French. I didn't see the Americans didn't have necessarily a whole bunch of troops there. Not like volunteer troops or anything. It was our troops. So if they want to have these colonies, they got to pay up. And that's basically what it is. And that's what's going to happen. So other things start to happen too. And I want to get into this. And this is some other stuff too. I got to backtrack a little bit. So, okay, The king is King George III, all right? In 1760, during the 7 Years' War, King George III is now crowned as king. That's important for you because King George III believes that in order to defend the American colonists against France, what we've got to do is we got to have a standing military there, which means if we have a standing military over in the colonies, that must be paid for. Okay? So he has a new policy of a standing military, which is, again, going to cost a lot of money. This is, again, the whole point of this is to prevent France from having any ideas of taking back that territory, of invading Canada, because it's not just the colonies that they're worried about, it's Canada too. There's a lot of real estate there and a lot of resources, so they've got to do what they can. Okay? Having that standing army, the greatest military force ever, up to that point in the world, which is the British military, it costs money. So when King George III is crowned, that's what he believes. After the 7 Years' War is over, you've got a Native American chief who is really angry at the fact that the Native Americans have gotten absolutely nothing out of this deal, and his name is Pontiac. You're like, I own a Pontiac. Well, Pontiac is a chief that resides primarily in present-day Detroit area, Michigan, okay? And he takes it upon himself to organize a huge revolt against the new British army that's there and the British forts and stuff. He's defeated, of course, by the British because of just the fact the British have an amazing amount of firepower. But in response to that, and there's a picture of that, King George III issues a very controversial thing. It's called the Proclamation of 1763. Okay, let me click on this. I think I have the map. There it is. In response to the violence of Pontiac against the new American real estate here, which is basically out here, King George III does something that the colonists hate. He's going to issue this thing called the Proclamation of 1763, as I said. It's this line right here. And basically what he says is, because there's hostile Native American tribes out here, you guys can't settle past this line. Now, if you're the colonists, what are you thinking about that? Do you like that idea? Why don't you like that idea?
It was all your land before, so why all of a sudden are you being told what to do with your land?
That's true. Okay, so now all of a sudden telling me what I can do with my land? Is that what you're saying, King George? I heard somebody up here said something. Trade? Explain more. It limits the trade between the Native Americans, possibly. Now, King George III thinks he's doing the colonists a favor, okay? He thinks what he's doing by doing this is, like, look, we're setting up this boundary. If you go past here, you're a knucklehead, because you're going to get killed, okay? This is actually helping you because it's defending you, okay? We can put our military right up and down this line, and that's going to have a guaranteed border where nobody can rush you, where you can be safe, you can understand where the limits are. Everybody knows where the limits are. Like, you can't just be going out into, like, over here where Detroit is, or down here where the Ohio Valley is. You can't just be going in there and setting up shop. Because if you do that, we can't defend you. So from his perspective, he's like, duh, don't you want to have us defend you? But from the American colonists, they're like, No, we'd love to go in and settle that land and make it ours. So right there's a little bit of a conflict. So we've got two conflicts, guys. We've got money, which is the problem, and then we've also got a conflict over land. Okay? Cool. So, let's go back to the money thing for a minute. There's a lot of stuff on this slide, but it's important to at least talk about. Now, what I did was I took a quote here from George Grenville, who you see right there. Again, the King George is looking to make money. His prime minister is George Grenville. And what he comes up with is something called, he has a great idea. It's called the Sugar Act. And he says this, he says, it is, I'm doing my British voice, because British people always sound more intelligent. It is expedient that new provisions and regulations should be established for improving the revenue of this kingdom. Only British people say revenue. And it is just and necessary that a revenue should be raised for defraying the expenses of defending, protecting, and securing the same. That was good. He wants to make more money, and this is the most important part. And what he thinks he's going to do basically what they want to do here is they want to tax sugar, which is being traded back and forth. That comes out of the United States. What he was hoping for is for this plan to generate 78,000 pounds, which is a lot, but it's not enough. I mean, they are severely in debt, by the way. They have a debt which is way more than that. But they're just looking for ways that hopefully they can make money. Okay? So, this obviously isn't something that the colonists are happy about, because any tax means that it's going to affect people in so many ways. For example, I'll ask you guys a practical question. How many of you guys feel you know a little bit about the business? Stuff like that. Cool. Some of you guys maybe in your lives, maybe you're going into business, or I don't know. Let me ask you a question. If the government puts a tax on something that you sell, what are the impacts of that? Just in a practical sense, what are the impacts of I'll just make something up. Let's say you sell Expo markers, and the government thinks they smell bad, so basically you're going to tax it. What are the consequences for your business if the government slaps a tax simply on this?
You're going to push the money out to sewer and perhaps let people go on the phone.
So I heard two things there. You're gonna push the cost onto the consumer, so that's one thing. It's going to be more expensive for you to buy it. And then the second thing you said is it's going to kill your business, possibly. What are some other things that could happen, possibly? I know I'm thinking way outside the box here on this one. Get a little too far.
Could start a black market.
That's what I was thinking right there. You could have a black market of fake Expo markers, where somebody else could cut into what your profit margin is, right? See what I'm saying? From a business standpoint, this is not cool. So the people that are buying and selling sugar are like, oh my God, seriously? This is what you're doing to us? But they're not going to stop there. They're going to do something where they're going to tax stamps and stuff. I just want to share this with you. This is not anything don't feel that you have to write all of this down, but let me just explain this quote from Samuel Adams. Yes, the same guy on the beard. Samuel Adams says, "For if our trade may be taxed, why not our lands? Why not the produce of our lands and everything we possess or make use of? This we apprehend annihilates our charter right to govern and tax ourselves. It strikes our British privileges, which as we have never forfeited them, we hold in common with our fellow subjects who are natives of Britain. If taxes are laid upon